Well, it's been quite a day here in Indore for the magnificent Madhya Pradesh Investor Summit. The Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh, Kamal Nath, has had this idea to try and bring more investment, industry into the state, which he says has really been underrepresented and underrated perhaps in terms of the potential that it offers. And Mr. Kamal Nath joins us now on NDTV. How do you think the day is gone? Because you had some 900 representatives overall from industry captains, big names who were present in Indore. How are you sort of looking at the outcomes today?
A large number of investors in the country really have never been familiar with Madhya Pradesh. For them, Madhya Pradesh meant tigers and forests and things of that sort. But as an investment destination, they never looked at it. So my approach was, my thoughts were that we must let them know about the real Madhya Pradesh, that what is the potential. Madhya Pradesh today is the heart of India. 65% of the market of the country is around Madhya Pradesh as a logistic hub. Now with the new GST regime, there is no better locational advantage than Madhya Pradesh. So there were a lot of people who had never been to Madhya Pradesh, large industries, large investors who had never been to Madhya Pradesh. I had invited them, and I believe that investment is extremely necessary for Madhya Pradesh at this point of time, with a very high aspirational population, aspirational youth who are looking for jobs, who are looking for economic opportunities, who are looking for economic activity. So we've had a very successful day.
But you know what was interesting about this summit is that you did not want to set out a goal of that, you know, at the end of the day you'll have a press release that says, you know, XX hundreds of crores were promised or MOUs were signed. Now, why is that? You decided to stay away from targets. Why was that?
Because all these are optical. In the end of the day, everybody will sign a MOU and go away. We've had this experience in Madhya Pradesh over the last several years, that so many 1,000 crores MOUs were signed. Now, that's all optical. I mean, that's all basically for publicity. In the end of the day, it matters what happens on the ground. It depends what investment comes in. So I was not looking at targets. I was saying that we must bring out that Madhya Pradesh is credible. The government here is a credible government, because investment is an article of faith. You cannot demand investment. You have to attract it. Whatever policies you may have, if people don't have faith in the government, they won't invest. There must be a very high investor sentiment for Madhya Pradesh.
Now, that's interesting because it also comes at a time when the economy is facing a big slowdown and we are in the midst of a downturn. Growth is lower. Investment around the country is generally, is a problem. Now, why do you think that for industry, Madhya Pradesh, apart from its location, would be the right place to invest? I mean, given the general state of the economy, what makes you think that this is the right time to have an investor summit here?
I wanted the people to know and to see that in Madhya Pradesh we have no downturn. Our auto sales haven't gone down. Our auto sales have gone up. Similarly, in consumer products, FMCG is not gone down, because the sentiment here is of hope. When the sentiment is negative, you see this downturn. Purchaser's sentiment is down. He won't buy a car. He'll say, I don't want a washing machine, I'll change my model next year. So in the end, you got to make sure that people have hope, a sentiment of hope, and that's what they have in Madhya Pradesh.
Why is that sentiment of hope here that's not reflected in
Because
other parts of the country?
They believe the government is going to perform. They believe the government is going to attract investment. That's why it's not gone down.
But lack of belief is not a problem as far as Mr. Modi and the centre are concerned. I mean, they've just come back with a massive mandate. So why is, it's not just that.
The thing is this, that if the people are seeing that the banking system is under collapse, they are seeing that policies of the government, the GST rollout is a mess. They are seeing that government expenditure is going down for crucial markets. They are seeing the construction sector, the textile sector in the mess. Obviously, sentiment will go down, and the government must address these issues.
One of the other things that you've also kind of done through this investor summit is also not to have one overarching policy for all industries. The sense one got today through the sessions was that you're trying to address everyone's individual concerns, that what you do, let's say for mining, you can't do for textiles, So that again is something you deliberately thought of, that every industry needs a different approach.
Well, right in the beginning I said you can't have a one-size-fits-all investment policy. What you're going to have for IT is very different from what you'll have for cement. For cement you'll have something very different to what you'll have to garments. There's somebody who comes and says that I am an exporter. Now I want freight equalization to go to a port. Otherwise this makes no sense to me to come to Madhya Pradesh. I will go to invest in a port. So everybody has different kind of requirements. For somebody the electricity rate is very important. For others it is unimportant. But it's a very small fraction. So you got to have a very specific sectoral investment policy. And that's what we are doing. That's what we've
So
said.
what are the three things that you're doing that would make it easier to invest here? I mean, in terms of ease of just doing business, what are the three things you would highlight?
Well, I'd say government response is the attitudinal change in government, that we'll do the hand holding. We'll just not give you approvals, we'll give you hand holding. Then we are doing away with a series of approvals which are required. Now, if supposing somebody is putting in money and he's violating some regulation, well, he knows that 3 years later, 2 years later, he'll be hauled up and his investment may be at stake. So why should he do it? So we're trying to build an impression that you trust us, we will trust you. And this is what people are appreciating and people are recognizing.
How does a summit like this in Madhya Pradesh compare to, say, in your view, to a vibrant Gujarat, which for years has been making headlines? You as Commerce Minister, I remember, had also gone to the vibrant Gujarat summit, putting politics aside and all of that when Mr. Modi was Chief Minister. So, do you see this Madhya Pradesh kind of then emerging in its own way compared to, say, a Gujarat which has made headlines, all these
Gujarat
years?
had advantage of being a port.
Yeah, which
We
you don't have.
We don't have that
You can't
advantage.
help that.
And I don't want to call ourselves vibrant and give these names. I just want to say that we are magnificent. And we are magnificent because of the people. It's not magnificent because of one individual or because of one event. It's magnificent because of the people. It's magnificent because of the environment. People must understand the real Madhya Pradesh. And that was my effort. And I think we are going to start a new, there's going to be a historical increase in investment in Madhya Pradesh.
So one last question: how you were someone who was actually very sort of wary of these investor summit type things, and unlike Vibrant Gujarat, this has been a one-day affair. But what made you change your mind, A, and B, given the state of the economy today in the country, what would you advise the government of India at this time? I mean, we are facing a serious crisis. Banking, you talked about, is something we're all worried about as citizens. So what is the advice you would give them with your experience?
Well, I would say the government needs to sort out the banking system. The banks are there to lend. Many people can't. The real estate sector is not suffering because of lack of cement. They're not suffering because lack of bricks. They are suffering because there's no liquidity. The banks are not willing to lend. The banks are playing safe. The banks own balance sheets. They're trying to protect their balance sheets. They're trying to correct the flaws which they had in their balance sheet. So the government needs to first correct the banking sector. Then the government has to look at certain stimulant sectors. Your textile sector is one of the largest employers. Your construction sector is one of the largest employers. So you got to address their issues. You got to see that GST is effectively rolled out. People are waiting for a couple of months, and then they don't have money. They have a cash flow problem. So these are some basic issues which the government needs to address. Just saying we'll reduce the tax rate is not going to solve the problem.
All right, well, Mr. Kamal Nath, thanks for joining us. Congratulations on your first major investor summit. Thanks very much.
Thank you.